Welcome to the Yvonne Kandi Show. Motivational, inspirational, and just plain fun. Where celebrities check in and you can check out what's fresh in entertainment, business, health, finance, and more. It's all about your lifestyle. Here's your host, Yvonne Kandi.
Hello, everybody, and thank you again for joining us on the Yvonne Kandi Show. Want to defy aging, be healthy, and feel great? Well, my next guest will be telling us how we can do just that. Dr. Robert Ledda, an expert in integrative medicine, will be joining us from Alaska Health and Wellness Retreat to talk about bioidentical hormone therapy, age management medicine, and Cenegenics. Welcome to the show, Dr. Ledda.
Thank you.
Dr. Ledda, you've graduated from the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School. You've completed residency in emergency medicine. You've treated over 60,000 patients in the course of 26 years. And in the past 6 years, you also studied wellness and precision medicine. Tell us what exactly is wellness and precision medicine, because when I hear wellness, I think holistic.
Okay, well, so we've threw a few terms out there, so let's just kind of start with wellness. You know, when we talk about wellness, generally we're using that term to mean a state beyond the absence of illness, but rather kind of the aim to optimize well-being and be in good health, especially when you pursue it as a goal. And so that's kind of the whole cornerstone of what we do at Cenegenics. Now, precision, when we're talking about medicine, in the sense of medicine, we're talking about using cutting-edge scientific testing in multiple different domains to determine a more precise needs analysis of an individual patient and then apply that information to the prescription for health. So we're trying to dig deep into a person's personal idiosyncrasies, learn about them, and then teach them about themselves and explain to them how to use that information to take better care of themselves. Now, generally, holistic, which is a term you used, means all of the parts of the whole. And in healthcare terms, we mean taking into account not just the physical health of the person, but mental, social, and spiritual health. And I would say that is part of our Cenegenics model, although realistically, we're an integrative model, and I think you used that in my introduction. And so, to me, what integrative medicine means is kind of blending this holistic model, this precision model, and this outlook on how to become well, as opposed to waiting for disease and then going and seeking medical care. But with the medical model, meaning that there are some medications that the pharmaceutical industry comes up with that probably warrant use now and then. So it's a blended model. That's integrative.
I was reading where you made a profound statement saying that we do not have a healthcare system in this country. We have a disease care system. Can you sort of elaborate on that?
Well, yes. That gets my blood boiling. So you started me off early. I've been an ER doctor for 27 years now. And, as such, I have participated in the profit model of medicine for much too long. Now, in my own defense, I've just been doing what I was trained to do. That's what this entire infrastructure is set up to do. I mean, I think it's controlled by what I call the healthcare swamp triangle. It's big insurance, big pharma, and big hospitals. The CEOs are making ridiculous amounts of money. We're spending tremendous amounts of money on pharmaceutical products. Our insurance is paying for it, but we pay a ton for our insurance. And all three of these entities are feeding themselves. The system's not really looking at how to take care of a person's health. It's predicated on the person having disease.
Right.
The system needs you to have disease so that you have to then utilize the system, and the big profit model kicks in. And I'm not saying that the profit model pharmaceutical industry and the medical science industry hasn't done tremendous things to improve our long-term health and wellness. It has, but there's some crazy stuff going on, and I've watched it. I mean, I'll give you an example. Okay, so let's just go with insurance. So I do a test as part of my workup where I look at a person's carotid arteries to make sure the wall isn't thickening, because it kind of demonstrates that you're developing blood vessel disease, and we're probably going to talk about that quite a bit. Well, it's a very simple, non-invasive test. It requires somebody to read it, and it costs a little bit of money. And I've never seen insurance cover this test when I've had patients try to submit their bills. But if you go into the ER and say, I think I'm having a stroke, they'll cover the test, okay? Because now you're trying to find a disease, okay? But if you had a stroke, you have dead brain. That's end organ damage. Too late. Right. And here's the case in point. I was 53 years old, working in the ER, very skilled with ultrasound, because I use it in this practice, and I've been trained in it in emergency medicine. And a guy came in. He was exactly my age. He's actually the brother of a friend of mine. His brother found him laying on the floor of his house because he hadn't showed up to work for 2 days. He couldn't move his right side. I put the ultrasound on the left side of his neck as the brain crosses over, and his carotid artery was completely blocked. Now, in my model, and if it was paid for as a screening exam, which it should be, had I seen that guy a month before, I would have said, oh my gosh, you don't need hormones, you need a vascular surgeon. But we're not interested in finding disease and proactively preventing disease. We're only interested in the disease model and figuring out if there's a prescription we can write that costs a lot of money that supports this big profit model. Big pharma is another example, right? Statin use, okay? I mean, they keep driving down the thresholds for who should take a statin. And yet when you look at the science, statins are the medications that lower cholesterol, okay? It's like if you take a statin, it lowers your cholesterol. And if you've ever had a heart attack, it actually reduces your risk of a future death. But it turns out when you give people statins who are otherwise healthy and just have bad cholesterol panels, and you actually follow the long-term science, they just die sooner with better-looking cholesterol numbers. And yet it's an $80 billion industry. And then the biggest thing that gets my blood boiling about the whole insurance paradigm is there is zero incentive for wellness. I mean, in other words, we have to put some skin in the game where the person who owns the insurance pays less if they take care of themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? You know, anyways, so that sort of answers your question about feelings in that regards. We don't have a healthcare system. We have a disease care system. Every hospital I walk into has some mission statement that talks about promoting health and wellness in the community. And yet I'm a member of these hospitals, and I don't see where we are really doing anything to promote health and wellness. You got to take this one up on your own, guys. I'm telling you, and you have to invest in yourself. It makes you do not want to use the disease model of medicine. You want it to be there for you, and you need the insurance to protect you from catastrophe. But the objective is don't ever use it.
I was speaking to another doctor, and we were saying that patients have to be a partner in their health care.
You're right. Hey, if I have somebody with really bad numbers at the outset, I may start with medicine and lifestyle. Right. Most patients, when I get done seeing them, I'm starting with lifestyle. But I have patients at the end of the day, I've talked to them, the third set of labs, nothing's changed. They don't lie to me. They go, doc, I never started the exercise. Well, how much have you changed your diet? Well, not really. You know what? You have this number and this number and this number and all of these things. I mean, I can read you the overwhelming physician response would be you need to be on this medicine and this medicine and this medicine. And if I just keep ignoring it, I look like I'm dumb too. Right. It's probably time for you to think about the regular medical model. Right. And if you want me to, that's not my wheelhouse. I'm not the expert here, but I'm capable. If you want me to prescribe medicine and follow you and be your primary care physician, I will. But you sort of didn't become a Cenegenics patient. You flunked out. I mean, it happens, I also have people that are disciples. I mean, I have people that never exercised in their life, and they eat it just blows me. They send me, text pictures of their lunch, and I'm like, you just ate my lunch. I've taught them, a along the lines of how I think. I've transferred my intellectual property to them, and I've given them enough conviction that they've come out the other side and they're doing what I'm telling them, and they're having the same results. So, I mean, it goes from one end to the other. What I do, and a big part of what I do, is I try to motivate people, try to convince them that the science is solid and that it's hugely impactful, not just a little bit, that they cannot afford not to make the changes I'm talking about. And then I teach them the science, so I give them the understanding of what they need to do. And then I just hope and pray that in that first few months, they're going to enact enough of the changes that they're going to subjectively feel the difference. And then if I can get them to carry that out through the first set of labs, and all of a sudden your doctor's going, look at how this looks so much better. Look, these are risk markers that are associated with you dropping dead of a heart attack at an early age. And you just fixed them all. And,
Right.
and then you hope you can get them to that point. They keep doing the behavior. A lot of them will. I mean, and is there going to be hills and valleys over time? Yeah, we're all human. I don't expect perfection out of anybody. I can't get it myself, so I'm certainly not going to expect my patients to, but you do have to engage to get the real benefit of a wellness program.
Yeah.
This is not a program where, hey, look, we throw you on some bioidentical hormones, bam, all of a sudden you're perfect. I mean, that can be the gasoline that we pour on the fire of a proper nutrition plan and a well-designed exercise program with some targeted supplementation. I mean, and that's what we see. It is like gas on the fire. I mean, it's just,
Right.
but it's amazing to watch. I've seen some unbelievable transformations. People that I thought had terrible genetics, and at the end, they proved to me they had great genetics and just like the worst lifestyles ever. But they changed, and they had immaculate labs and just, transformed. It's incredible.
Well, that's wonderful, and I definitely agree with the doctors have to encourage their patients. I think that's better than discouraging them. I think you should encourage them, and they probably would get better results. I was reading Dr. Julie McCallan's story, and I thought that was very interesting, and I also thought it might inspire the audience. Can you tell us her story?
Well, I know Julie well, and what she describes of feeling poorly, I think she was feeling tired, fatigued, and weak. Okay, and she's a very small-framed lady, and one of the greatest things that impact women's health as they age is frailty. And so she was recognizing this in herself, and she ultimately went through the training and became a Cenegenics physician and basically imported the Cenegenics program into her life. And the typical cornerstone of Cenegenics is hormone optimization. Now, I should spend a little time and talk about what a hormone is so people understand it. Hormones are molecules made by the organ system in your body collectively known as the endocrine system. Things like your thyroid gland, your adrenal glands, your gonadal tissue, whether you have male or female testicles or ovaries. And these molecules travel through the bloodstream and have access to every cell in your body. And it turns out that every cell in your body probably has a receptor for every hormone that the endocrine system makes. And when a hormone binds to the receptor on the cell, it is actually carried into the cell to the nucleus of the cell. Now, if you remember from science, the nucleus is where all your DNA is. And what happens is the hormone actually turns on genes inside the nucleus of the cell. It activates your DNA so that the DNA transcribes a protein that makes your cells work right, okay? And as we age, all of our hormones start to decline, okay? Now, you take a woman who hits menopause, and she's got no estrogen, basically. Testosterones are half of what they were when she was 25. And even her other hormone systems are on the decline. And you get those back to an optimized 25-year-old age, and then you take a good lifestyle prescription with that, and the transformation is just unbelievable. I've seen it over and over and over again. And to tell you the truth, though, Cenegenics is oftentimes thought of as a male product. Half of my patients are females, and that's partly because after I got done with my training, I was desperate to get all the menopausal women in my family on hormones, and I have a bunch of them living around me, so I basically had this huge influx of female patients right from the get-go. But it's actually more miraculous to see what happens to the ladies than it is to see what happens to the men, although the andropause is just as severe. You know, women drop off a cliff at menopause, whereas men slide into andropause, so we sort of tolerate it a little better. But anyways, it's a very typical scenario that you see. You put them on hormone optimization, you optimize the rest of their life, and they become more youthful looking, feel better. I mean, just subjectively, they feel better. Their strength improves, muscle mass improves, bone density is incredible. What I see happen with women. So, anyways, it's a very similar story. I have patients of my own that mimic what she was experiencing and have had huge improvements.
Now, do you find this to be common with most women of a certain age? The fatigue and the weakness, the lack of energy?
It is common. I mean, I think, you know, it's not going to hit everybody at the same age. Not all women go through menopause at the same age. Certain things help to preserve your testosterone levels. You know, the person who was a lifelong exerciser may stay fit off longer than the person who's sedentary. Even if you had identical twins, say, with the same genetics. You know, if the one twin decided he was going to be a jock his whole life, and the other one became a very sedentary person, probably see a difference in their testosterone levels at any given age. But the point is, it doesn't matter who you are and how hard you train, your hormone levels are declining. Menopause is going to happen to every woman, whether it happens at 45 or 55. And the decline in testosterone in particular is going to happen in both sexes beginning at age 25 to 30. And it's going to happen, and you are eventually, almost everybody's eventually going to get to a level where the amount of circulating testosterone in their body is below their own specific needs analysis for a vibrant life where they have adequate energy and drive to get up and do the things we ought to do and want to do every day, the ability to recover from exercise and the motivation to do it. And probably one of the most important aspects of what we do, particularly with regards to testosterone replacement therapy in the male and the female, is we enhance the exercise prescription.
For those who do not like exercising, that is a key point. You have to exercise.
You really do. And you know, I'm right now in the middle of writing about exercise in my blog that I do, and I've been reading all kinds of scientific studies, and the worst part of have to exercise is you really should exercise at an extremely intense level. That's the bad news. But it takes drive to do that. The good news is you don't have to exercise very much, okay? The more intense you're willing to do, the less time you got to put in. I'm really getting into this science, and it's pretty incredible, but I'm telling you, it's painful. It's reminded me of back when I was in 7th and 8th grade running the 440. And, you know, that's the toughest race, I think. You fall to the ground at the end of that race and roll around thinking you're going to die for 30 seconds, you know. You do, 3 all sprints for a minute, 3 days a week. Cannot believe the benefits that creates in the human body in reversing metabolic disease, decreasing the risk factor markers that we doctors test, both us integrative, holistic doctors and the disease model docs for testing the same numbers. I can fix them better than any medicine the disease model can throw at you if you do everything I tell you. And in the context of the Cenegenics Wellness Program, where We provide you with adjunctive hormone therapy and get your hormones back to a youthful level. And we teach you a lot about how to eat, kind of probably go through your diet and figure out where your pitfalls are and kind of write that prescription for how to eat, where you're going to have optimized nutrition and yet control caloric intake. Hopefully we reduce, obesity if that's a factor in the patient. And then you do targeted, brief, daily, intense exercise at a volume that's sustainable in almost anybody's life. Okay, because that's the key. If you look at why people don't exercise, the number one complaint is time. I did my intervals last night. It took me 19 minutes. Now, from what I've been reading, I probably did the most efficient way to train cardiovascularly that there is. I warmed up for 3 minutes. I took off on a dead sprint. I was on an airline bike. I went as hard as I could for as long as I could. I tapped out at about 45 seconds. I recovered for 3 minutes. I did it again. I recovered for 3 minutes. I did it again. I recovered for 3 minutes. I did it again. I did 5 of those. Now, it was hard.
Wow.
And I mean, the recovery time when you're sitting there gassed from going wide open for 45 seconds is painful, especially the first 20 to 30 seconds. Not everybody's going to do this. Humans have a natural aversion to pain, okay? Not everybody's going to do it, but you're a lot more likely to do it if you've kind of got the drive hormone coursing through your veins. I mean, I had major changes in my own personal life when I got on this program. It was incredible.
I hear so many people say, especially people who are in the medical field, they say walking is very helpful. But if you're saying you need an intense exercise, would you say that you have to walk intensely?
Okay, so I will argue the other side of the coin right now, because I read a lot of exercise science. I really enjoy that. Anything massively reduces your mortality. If you want to look at the biggest jump when you look at studies that take a look at how fit people are and then follow them longitudinally over time and just see whether they die or not, it turns out that fitness is a better predictor of how long you're going to live than any other marker, than having had a heart attack, than smoking cigarettes. Then if you're fit, you almost just don't die. Okay?
Wow.
I mean, it's almost that stark when you look at the studies. But you want to know where the greatest benefit is? It's going from the least fit group into the next least fit group. Okay? So the lowest hanging fruit is actually for the couch potatoes. And I recognize that there's 60 and 70-year-old people out there that have never exercised and they're overweight. They're listening to me going, I'm going to do 4 sprints tomorrow night. Okay, they're not. But if they get off the couch and walk 30 minutes a night as briskly as they can, that will probably move them from the lowest fitness group into the next lowest, which is the biggest reduction in mortality, meaning they're less likely to die. So there's something for everybody on the spectrum. But for most of us leading busy lives, we do not have time to get all the benefits that exercise can provide through what we would call medium intensity continuous exercise. It turns out that if you look at how quickly you derive the maximum benefit with that high intensity type training that I described, like on my Airdyne last night, you get there in like 60 to 90 minutes of exercise a week. Okay? Whereas the continuous moderate effort exercise, what most people would consider aerobics, aerobic exercise, jogging or whatever, there's a graded benefit that goes out to 1,000 to 1,500 minutes a week. That's a lot of volume. I don't have that kind of time. When I'm 80, maybe that will be my exercise program. I'll be tired of the pain. I'll say, you know what? The wife and I are taking the dog and we're going to walk for 2 hours every day, hopefully somewhere where it's warm and sunny all winter. and get that volume, because you can get to the same place.
Right.
You can get to the same reduction in mortality, but you better have a lot of time if you're going to do it the casual way. But both work. Just standing is better than sitting. I mean, there's so much evidence out there, and the evidence is the human body was not made to sit and do nothing. That's the bottom line. And we were designed to have bursts of wide open effort, punctuated by bursts of relative relaxation or extended periods of relative relaxation.
Right.
We were sprint interval. I mean, hunter-gatherers were sprint interval trainers. That's what we did. We went wide open. If the saber-tooth tiger didn't get you, you made it, And so that's the way our bodies have become adapted, and we need that kind of activity for our bodies to function properly, and that's what exercise science is telling us.
Well, you said something very interesting. Take your pet for a walk. That's putting you in the next category for living longer. At least you're getting some exercise.
And all of that's important for our health. I mean, I spend a lot of time. I mean, I got people that are in my practice, and it's like, I mean, I know them well enough that I know their financial situation, and I'm looking at their health, and I'm like, you know what? You work too hard. You need less cortisol coursing through your veins. You need to shut off that other valve, because I know you got plenty of money. Slow down. That's part of me as a spiritual coach. I got to tell somebody, you know what? Put the brakes on. Don't take the next job.
Right.
You're financially well. I'm looking at your health. That's not as well as your financial situation. So why are you allowed? I can talk to you, and you're straight. You got cortisol coming out of your pores while I'm talking to you. You're under stress. Let's get rid of some of that. So it's we try to really get into the patient in an in-depth fashion. And yes, we are holistic, and yes, we are integrative, and almost all of the Cenegenics docs are using a blended model. I mean, we're studying the science of, heart disease and stroke reduction like cardiologists do. We have physicians who have been surgeons. We have physicians who have been OB-GYN doctors. We have 2 cardiologists. We have an ophthalmologist. A lot of us were ER doctors. We have family practice doctors. We have an anesthesiologist. So we most of us were trained with a fairly broad-based training, but we see patient as an individual. So it's not like going to the Mayo Clinic where they're going to pass you from one specialist to another, to another, to another. Most of us are capable of treating the simple problems in any specific organ system. Not to say that, I mean, I've had patients come in for their Cenegenics Elite Health Evaluation, and when I got done with their exercise stress test, I said, I think you got a blockage. I sent them to a cardiologist, and they had a stent. I mean, I'm not going to take care of their heart at that point, but I identified a problem before it happened because they came and saw me.
I wanted to let the audience know what your experience was with Cenegenics. Can you sort of tell us about that?
Well, sure. I'll take you back in time a little bit. I was at a stage where I had my fishing lodge, and I was working very hard as that business was growing. This was about 7 years ago. I was 47 years old. I went into the ER for an evening shift, and the nurse walked over and handed me an EKG. I hadn't seen a patient yet. I was logging on to the computer. It was a 47-year-old guy who was having a heart attack. I mean, I looked at the EKG, and I said, what room is he in? Time to get up and get moving. This is the real deal. So quickly, I run into the room and find out that the guy's 47. He's moderately overweight. Kind of looked about like I did at the time. I start running down the list of risk factors, and he's got all negatives. Any history of high blood pressure? No. Diabetes? No. Family history of early heart disease? No. Do you smoke? No. I'm like, okay, well, those are the big 4, all no's. That's just like me. Wonder where am I on this continuum? So that planted a seed. On top of that, I was starting to burn out. I mean, I'd had over 20 years in the ER at that point. And, it's a high stress, high cortisol type job. I was feeling overwhelmed in life because I had so many sticks in the fire. I built this fishing lodge. I was director of the emergency medical system on the Kenai Peninsula. Was working full time in the ER. And I was starting to wake up achy and fatigued, and my agenda was to save my own rear end. I was 41 when I had my first kid, and I just had my last kid at 47. And I remember waking up one morning, and my job that day was to get in the Beaver at my fishing lodge and fly a bunch of nice people around the wilderness of Alaska and take them fishing. And it was a beautiful sunny day. Sun was coming up over the mountain range, and I would have preferred to go back to bed. And I'm like, ruh-roh, we're in trouble because you got a long row to hoe. You got a 1-year-old, and you're this tired of, you don't want to go out and do something that's like a positive experience. That created some concern. And so, it turned out within a few days after that experience, I had a late night. I was transitioning from swing to night, so I stayed up late, and a Cenegenics commercial came on. And I was looking at a couple doctors, and they were in their 50s, and they were looking like how I wanted to look my whole life. And been training, I always exercised, but I was starting to see the middle-aged gut come on despite exercising and trying to eat right. And long story short, I called Cenegenics number, and this guy just hounded me for months until I finally signed up for the training program. And when I got done with that training program, the Cenegenics Certification in Age Management Medicine, I knew the intellectual property given to me with my science background and my understanding of medicine. I knew it was going to work. I was like, why have I never been taught this as a doctor? I applied what they taught me from the nutritional education standpoint, the optimized, efficient exercise protocol. I went on hormone replacement therapy, and I got on some targeted supplementation. And even though I knew it was going to work, I wasn't prepared for the experience because, 3 weeks later, I felt like I was walking 3 feet off the ground.
Wow.
I realized I had beaten age. It was like, my gosh, I'm getting younger. And at 3 months, the transformation that my body had in 3 months of really applying the program, okay? I didn't, we talked about two ends of the spectrum, right? The disciple and the person that really never does any of it. I did it. But I'm going to tell you what, it was unbelievable. At some point I'll share with you my website. You can go and look at my before and after pictures. And when you look at the after picture, that picture's taken exactly 3 months after finishing my training. A 4-pronged approach with, diet and exercise. Diet's number one. The biggest modifiable risk factor to chronic disease is the hole in your face. Every molecule that you're looking at right now, when you look at your body, got there because you put it in your mouth. Okay? 1 year from now, 99% of those atoms are going to be somewhere else in the universe. You're going to turn your entire body over in 1 year. That's how much potential you have for change. That's a lot of change, right?
That's
99%.
a lot of change. Yeah.
99%. The molecules you're looking at in the mirror today, they're gone a year from now. They're somewhere else in the universe. So, diet's the most modifiable risk factor. Exercise is second. Hormones are like pouring fuel on that fire, the diet and exercise fire. And then you do some intelligent, targeted supplementation. Another thing that the disease model refutes, and they use shady science, and I can sit and argue about it all day long, but there is evidence-based supplementation where we can see that there's clearly benefits to taking certain supplements, particularly if you have a particular needs analysis. When you combine all 4 of those things, you can do what I did, or what I've had several patients do, what Dr. McCallan did, what all of us Cenegenics doctors have experienced, not only in ourselves, but in a fair portion of our population. And quite frankly, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done in medicine. You know, I mean, I've had some great experiences in the ER, and, you know, I've had a couple of heroic saves where you get giant fruit baskets from the family because they recognize you, you know, and obviously that's rewarding, but you got to wade through a lot of stuff to get to those cases. And some of what you're wading through is not really what the average person wants to spend their day doing, you know?
Right.
So this is a completely different model. It's so much more fun. And I'm just loving it. But that's my story. I mean, that's how I found Cenegenics to save my own bottom and protect my health as a man that was kind of advanced age for how young my family was. And you know, after having such success with the program personally, I took it to the next step. I said, I'm going to build my own center on my fishing lodge property. I'm an ER doc. I mean, I'm still practicing emergency medicine, you know, but I'm slowly weeding away and becoming almost entirely, you know, promoting health and preventative model, you know. And now I have this private office that I built that's on the lodge property that I built 25 years ago, and it's a pretty successful fishing lodge. And I have people come in and do a whole wellness week, and I you know, they spend a week at the lodge. They go fishing or go eco tour and see bears, and, you know, see Alaska for a week. And I give them a lecture every night. And I teach them about chronic disease one night. I teach them about you know, nutrition the next, exercise, and I'm going over the science, making sure they understand it. I'm trying to create that conviction in the person when they leave the end of a week that they have to change how they're acting.
You're listening to the Yvonne Kandi Show, where it's all about your lifestyle.
If you dial the Cenegenics contact number to the national program, 866-240-0035. That's 866-240-0035. We have a phone transfer service, and all of us physicians take the time to answer these calls and interview potential patients to see if it sounds like Cenegenics fits their needs analysis, to go over the cost structure, make sure they understand the program. And then if you decide that you wish to do the Cenegenics program, then basically you sign up for an elite health evaluation. It's a one-day, all-day medical exam, okay? And it's conducted by one of the Cenegenics physicians, like myself, depending on which facility you decide to go to. You know, you may decide you want to come spend a wellness week at All Alaska Outdoors Lodge, and that's obviously a niche that I'm trying to fill, create a new niche, you know, a health and wellness retreat for an entire week. But you could also just come see me for a day, and I have local patients that I just see, you know, annually for their full evaluation and do regular lab follow-up.
Dr. Ledda, I just wanted everyone to understand, if you're going to go to Cenegenics, which is located in all of these locations around the world.
Pretty much there's a place somewhere near you. I mean, you don't have to travel all the way to Alaska to be a Cenegenics patient. It's an option, and it's the only option that comes with kind of this comprehensive wellness week where I have the time to really teach you. I feel like the most important thing that we do as Cenegenics doctors is transfer intellectual property on how to be well. And that takes time. And so the Wellness Week creates a nice platform for that while you're seeing Alaska, going and seeing some bears, catching some salmon, which, by the way, is the healthiest form of protein on the planet. But, you know, but the Cenegenics experience is a one-day experience, and it will happen one day of the week while you're at the lodge. But if you went to, say, Houston, let's say you live in Houston, you called the Cenegenics office, you did the phone interview, you want to sign up. Here's what basically would happen. You would get labs done a couple of weeks in advance. Somebody would come to your home, draw your blood, and send it for a variety of tests that will evaluate your sugar metabolism and help to define whether you have diabetes or a risk of it. It will evaluate your fat metabolism. It will evaluate your inflammation markers. It will do all of your hormones that are of consequence that we would replace, stress hormones, thyroid hormones, growth hormones, and sex hormones. It would evaluate some of your vitamin statuses. You would have your typical basic labs that get checked frequently by your primary care doc, a complete blood count, white blood cells, red blood cells, platelets, a metabolic panel that looks at kidney function, liver function, electrolytes like sodium, potassium, iron studies. All of that we would have access to on the day of your evaluation.
What comes after that?
Well, you got to go through. So let me finish explaining you what else besides the labs and an expanded history and physical. We're doing a DEXA scan, okay? Now, a DEXA is a scan that uses very low radiation to look at your lean body mass, that's how much muscle you got, your fat mass and where it's located, that's how much fat. It'll give you a body fat percentage. It's the gold standard for that. It tells me if you've got fat around your intestinal organs, which is the fat that's associated with metabolic disease. It will look at your bone density, and we specifically look at the bone density of the femoral neck of both hips, which is where people fall and break their hips, okay?
Right.
And the lumbar spine. So the DEXA scan does help to create a need analysis for, our program, because we show, hey, look, you've got a lot of central fat. That's metabolically active fat. We need to get rid of that. You know what? Hormones do that. I mean, and in the context of everything else we do, they really do it. You've got low bone density, testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, all proven to improve bone density. I mean, so in other words, we're looking for reasons that you should be on the program, and we've got a way to quantitate problems and follow them and prove that we're resolving them, and it works. We do a test called the VO2 max test. Now, this is an exercise stress test where your oxygen consumption is measured by a mask and a machine that you breathe in and out of while you exercise. It's a stress test. It can rule out blockages that are potentially going to cause a heart attack. It's a pulmonary function test, meaning it tells me if your lungs work. It's a strength test. It's an endurance test. And it defines for me the heart rates at which you become aerobic and anaerobic, which helps me to design a precise exercise program for you. We also look at a thing called CIMT. I alluded to that earlier when I talked to you about the 53-year-old guy that had a massive stroke, same age as me. CIMT is carotid intima media thickness. The carotid artery is the big artery that feeds your brain. It's in your neck. It's easy to access. I can put some gel on your neck and use an ultrasound wand and look at that artery, and I can see if you're building up atherosclerosis. That's the medical term for hardening of the arteries. It's going to kill 60% of us, okay? So it would seem to me like a pretty reasonable thing to take a look at, see if you're developing it, and all I got to do is put some gel on your neck. For some disease model doesn't think it's a sensible expenditure, I sort of think it is. Anyways, I look at that, I can measure it, and I can compare the thick wall of your artery to other people your age, sex, and race. And I can tell you where you're at. Are you thicker walled or thinner walled? Obviously, thinner is better, right? You want the pipe to be open. You don't want the walls to be closing in. I might even identify advanced plaques on that test and say, things are pretty far gone here. And then we do a test called CNS vital signs. Okay, now that's a central nervous system vital signs. It's a validated test that screens for dementia, and it allows us to follow people's cognitive function. So I get done with that day with you, and more than likely at the end of the day, hopefully the patient has engaged and they're like, yep, I want to do this. And then we generally put them on a program that, if applicable and appropriate, includes hormone replacement therapy, or we'll just call it hormone therapy because we're optimizing hormones, along with targeted supplementation and this new nutrition and exercise prescription. And you do meet with an exercise nutritionist as part of the day, and they're very, very, very well trained people that we have working with Cenegenics. And then what happens is you go out and hopefully put this lifestyle together, start on the supplements and the hormones, and we begin to follow labs and do follow-up calls. So we only see you in the office one time a year. So you only come in and do the full evaluation one time a year. But we're rechecking the lab evaluation, typically quarterly or every 10 weeks or so. And we're following the improvement in these disease risk markers as you employ the lifestyle changes. And obviously, not everybody, one size doesn't fit all. I have to guess at how much hormone to put you on, and then I have to follow labs and make proper adjustments and follow other things in your lab panel that need to be paid attention to by somebody who understands what they're doing when I make adjustments in your hormones. Sense?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But I wanted to explain to the audience how that connects with the All Alaska Retreat.
How Cenegenics connects with the All Alaska Retreat?
I mean, because they're connected, because you own All Alaska Health and Wellness Retreat, and then you are a partner in Cenegenics. So now, how do they go from that to the All Alaska Health and Wellness Retreat, or is this just an option for them to take their health a step further?
Yeah, well, you could do either one. I mean, you could go do a Cenegenics evaluation to become a Cenegenics patient, and then say, hey, I want to go to Dr. Bob's Health and Wellness Retreat in Alaska and really drill down on some of this, nitty-gritty information. Or you could make your first Cenegenics evaluation at All Alaska Outdoors Lodge and do the Health and Wellness Week. Oh. So I have some partners. I built this fishing lodge this is our 25th anniversary. I built this lodge 27 years ago. When I came to Alaska, I started hacking down trees, and I built a big log lodge. Over the 25 years that I've been running this business, I've expanded to where it's a 4-acre waterfront resort. It's beautiful and a nice experience to come and enjoy and see Alaska. And 6 years ago, when I finished my Cenegenics training, I developed the concept of I'm going to build an on-site medical office and blend my wellness practice, where I'm a Cenegenics partner, with my lodge business, where I'm a partner with 2 other guys, and we own this fishing lodge. So I have my office on property so my Cenegenics office, the office I need to run and conduct all those tests that you would have whether you went to any Cenegenics office, my office is on my lodge property. So one option is you can come to the lodge, pick a week of lodge activities, have dinner every night, and listen to me go on and on about how you need to take care of yourself. Make sure you understand hormone therapy. Make sure you understand supplementation. Drill down on exercise. And go out with a more expanded prescription and a better understanding of kind of how to achieve this wellness that I'm hopeful that, we're going to see more and more people embrace this concept as time goes on. You don't have to come to the Fishing Lodge to be a Cenegenics patient. Let me make sure you understand that. You could come and be seen by me if you wanted, even if you don't live in Alaska. If you want to come in one night or 2 and have a wellness evaluation, I can do that. And, there's probably an office closer to most people where they could just go be seen for the day. That clear things up?
It does, but I want also everyone to understand that this is truly a choice of your own. Even if you find that through Cenegenics that you need help and you have some things that you need to clear up with your health, your insurance is not paying for this. This is something that is a choice of yours to do, almost like cosmetic surgery, let's say.
Can I jump in real quick there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I like what you said, and I'd like to elaborate. I have to explain, because I find a significant amount of resistance to people, the concept of you actually pay money for something that is health-related. Well, I have insurance. Well, wait a minute. Let's look at it like your home insurance. Take your homeowner's insurance, okay? Your homeowner's insurance is there if a tree falls through your roof. They come fix your roof. You don't
Yeah.
call your homeowner's insurance when it's time to put new shingles on the roof because they've worn out. That's called maintenance. I'm encouraging people to embrace the concept of personal responsibility for their own health maintenance. Now, if you think you're a genius and you can figure it out all on your own, and your intellectual property is higher than mine or somebody else's at Cenegenics, and you're doing a great job, then great, you don't need us. But there's a lot of people out there that would like to embrace their own health and wellness. Some of them, probably the financial commitment is not that big a deal. Others, it's more significant. But there are plenty of people out there that probably are smart enough to recognize that having an expert coach that can not only define what you should do, teach you what your personal idiosyncrasies are, and then follow your progress and prove to you it's working. There's a lot of people that probably get that, that's a good thing and worth some personal investment.
Right.
But if
right.
you don't invest in yourself, you're just waiting to use the disease model. And the next time you see a doctor, it's going to be because something's wrong. And let's just hope that it's not something that is permanent end organ damage and you've missed your window of opportunity to make your life better. I mean, we're talking about improved feelings of well-being, improved sexual function, more energy, more strength, more stamina. You can play with your grandkids more. You can do more outdoor activities. The things that you've always loved, you will have for longer in your life. But you got to make a personal investment.
And it's worth it. It's worth it to have all of that. Why don't you give everyone your contact information for Cenegenics and also the All Alaskan Health and Wellness Retreat so they can find out more information like cost and what's covered under that cost?
Great. I'd be happy to do that. So if you would like to have a free consultation from the Cenegenics National Program, where they would most likely pass you off to a doctor from any region might call you, but you would most likely, if you were sold on the program, you would go to a place that's close to you. You call our 866-240-0035. And my understanding is relatively quickly you will receive a call, or they may direct connect you to one of our physicians that will talk to you about the program and answer all of your questions and probably dig a little bit into your own personal needs and stuff. Now, if you want to talk about coming and seeing me, I'm happy for you to call me on my own personal line. If you want to talk about a health and wellness week, you reach me at 907-953-0473. And if you want to just spend a little more time digging into this whole Health and Wellness Week and the All Alaska Outdoors Lodge concept, you can just go to the website All Alaska, that's ALLALASKA.com, and then navigate across the top bar to the Health and Wellness Week. And there's an expanded presentation in there, a little 5-minute video about what, the concept, some before and after pictures, and a little bit about my walk. And you can kind of, get a lot of information from that. And of course, you can reach our contact numbers through that site as well. And then I'm happy to answer emails. I can be reached by email at rledda, that's RLEDDA, at Cenegenics.com. And if you do reach me by email, underneath my signature block, you can join my Facebook wellness post where I cover a lot of this scientific information on health and wellness. I've gone through chronic disease. I've gone through nutrition. I'm on exercise right now. I post every couple of weeks. They're 5 to 10 minute reads. I usually provide some scientific articles for people to refer to. And you can either go to Facebook and search wellness patients and join, and I'll approve you, or you can email me, and then the link is at the bottom of my SIG block, and I'll email back and answer whatever question that you might ask. I'm happy. I love talking to people about health. You probably can tell I'm a little energized about it, and I I like to see people get healthy. It's very rewarding, and I'm just blessed that God led me in this direction. And I found Cenegenics 7 years ago, and it's been such an amazing thing for me, my extended family, friends that I'm taking care of, and patients that I would have never known that I've become good friends with. I just feel like God's put me in such a wonderful place now.
Dr. Ledda, thank you so much for joining us on the Yvonne Kandi Show.
Yvonne, it was a pleasure. I really enjoyed getting to talk with you, and I hope people will take to heart that it's, for a lot of people, it's time to make a proactive change. And Cenegenics is like a beautiful, program for really helping you to encompass everything you need to do to really start to feel better and just have a better life.
And thank you guys for joining us again on another episode of the Yvonne Kandi Show. And you know my motto, live the life you deserve.
Thanks for listening to the Yvonne Kandi Show. Want to know more? Check out YvonneKandi.com.